So, brief recap of what goes on for the rest of this Torah portion. We get the plague of locusts, and then the plague of darkness, and then the firstborn son. It's the last three. And and then we get some commandments about the Feast of Passover and unleavened bread. And that's kind of what happens up until 13:16. So that's just to kind of help you guys have an understanding of what happened. What I'd like to dig into as we come to the end of the plagues is something that struck me as hard to deal with when I first read this, and that was the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. So there are actually two words used three, except one's not talking directly about Pharaoh, but two words that are used in the process of the plagues that are talking about Pharaoh's heart. The first is kazak, and the second is kabad or kabed. Now, kazak, interestingly, means actually to strengthen. It means almost more to be courageous than to be, or just to have the courage to do what you want to do, in a sense. It's not so much being hard-hearted. And then kabed is actually being hard-hearted. It's being stubborn. It's not moving. It's being hard, unwilling to do anything. And it's interesting if you dig into who said what or who did what. So when you dive into who actually did kazak, gave strength, gave courage, it's always the Lord. The Lord gives Pharaoh the courage to carry out what he wants to carry out. He never makes him do something. So that's important for a lot of reasons. I'll dig into that in a second. And then every time kabed, stubbornness is used, it's Pharaoh hardening his heart. Pharaoh makes himself stubborn. So why this is important to me, at least, and I hope it sheds some light for you guys, one of the biggest gifts that God has given us is free will, right? Free will to turn to him, free will to turn away, free will to break any one of the commandments, whatever, right? We can do whatever we want, and we have to live with those consequences or the blessings. And so to me, it seemed wrong that Pharaoh seemed to lose his free will in this when I first read through it, and I didn't have an understanding of the words, right? The Lord hardened his heart. Pharaoh had no choice. But that's not the case. So in this, obviously, we get to God will use us in whatever place we're at. Pharaoh, obviously, the whole purpose of the plagues was to make his glory known among the nations. That's at the end of the day, he wanted everybody to know that he was the God of Israel and that he was all powerful and that they couldn't do anything about it. And so he had that plan. And Pharaoh just happened to be in a place where he was going to be stubborn about it. He didn't want to let the people go. And so in that sense, Pharaoh was exercising his free will and not letting the people of Israel leave. But God was giving him the strength to continue to exercise his free will. To say, if this is what you're going to do, I'm going to give you the strength to do it. And so that's important to me. And I wanted to share that with you guys. So thank you for listening.